Okay, so here is my full analytics automation system, and this is basically the standard operating procedure index where I have all of my SOPs, all of my processes. I'm still working through that and building that out. A lot of this I was basically just chatting with ChatGPT to brainstorm, give me some ideas as to how to build this business from the ground up. The main idea is essentially I'm going to be starting a brand new business. It's very similar to a lot of the work that I did in the past, so I'm definitely an expert in the field, but nonetheless, it's a brand new business, and I'm going to be taking it from zero to whatever the number is, I'm going to be taking it there. And the main idea is that for years, I was building analytics dashboards for clients, for customers, and basically every time I was building those, it was essentially fully custom. It was whatever they wanted, whatever data sources that they had, they would let me know and I would build that out. I would combine everything, I would build the report. Obviously, sometimes I would have to work with APIs. After I got a little bit more advanced, I started working with those APIs. When I first started, it was, of course, just Excel files and Excel charts, and then it graduated into some more complex things. So let me show you really quick a little bit about that. So here is my Upwork page, and just refresh this, whatever. You can look it up. It's right there. But so I had 200K earnings, and I would say a lower number of hours than some other YouTubers. And a reason for that is because I was doing all the work myself. I wasn't outsourcing it, which that's totally fine. But I did try that idea out a few years ago, and there's like a few things wrong with it. I mean, the first thing that was wrong with it was, quite frankly, I didn't really enjoy it. I don't really like managing people. Um, yes, it's just a personality trait or a personality flaw. And then the other aspect was that essentially I didn't have processes built out, which is what I'm building now, but I didn't have those processes built out. So basically, I was thinking, hey, I'll just hand this off to someone, and then it was, of course, data that was not private or whatever, is just basic stuff, and have them do that. And what I found is that the ramp up period for them to kind of give me the result that I wanted just took too much time, and I'm having to pay them to build this and to learn, but then it's wasting time because then I essentially had to rebuild everything from scratch after that happened. And so then I would say about a year and a half ago, I had this idea, which, that's a long time ago, but I had this idea to basically build something that is kind of automated or templatized. And there are analytics dashboard templates where you just plug in, the template to Looker Studio or Power BI, and you have your one data source report. But there's not really anything out there that combines data sources together in a robust way. If you want that, you have to pay for it custom. And so, again, the idea is to build that and then basically provide the data sources that are most common to, the most number of business owners. Basically, e-commerce, Shopify business owners is the niche that I decided to choose. I've worked with a lot of them in the past. I've worked with both e-commerce selling products, and I've also worked with service-based companies that want their analytics as well. The thing about the service-based businesses is that they're great. However, I feel like it's a little bit less repeatable, and it's a little bit more difficult to templatize because the array of data sources is a lot more vast when you get into specialized software platforms for specific industries, specific niches. And so that's why I decided, okay, I'll just stick with e-commerce Shopify, and then it's going to be all the basic data sources like Shopify, Google Ads, etc. And so back to the story about a year and a half ago, I had the decision to make this idea, but the problem was that at that time I actually just had too much work and I was basically drowning in work. And so over that year and a half, what I did essentially is to to have less work. Now I have a difficult time telling customers, telling clients no. Like if someone wants to pay me money, I'm running a business. This is my livelihood, and it's really hard to tell them, no, I don't want your money. Like with a skill that I'm great at, that I know how to do. No, I can't help you because I don't feel like it. It's like, it's really hard to tell people no. But what I found is that I can actually get them to tell me no. And the way to do that is, of course, raising my hourly rate, raising my prices. And so I gradually, continually raise my prices to, like 40 per hour, 60, 80, 100, and so on. And then now I found that, and I also haven't applied for new jobs in I would say over a year as well. So I completely stopped marketing or prospecting altogether um, for a long time, and I was continually raising prices and mostly just working with repeat customers, I would say now. And that's great, and it's going great, and everything is good. Now I have some free time though, which is by design. And that's part of the reason why I raised my prices. And so we're going to get into exactly why, I got this free time now, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to use it for. And so I would say one of the major pain points to building the custom dashboards is, of course, that, it takes my time to build every single one. But on top of that, it's actually less optimal for the business owner. And here's why. The reason why is because it's slower. And, speed to lead, well, that's like a sales thing, but speed to the product, there's value in making the time faster. If you go to a mechanic and they fix your car tires or something in 1 hour versus you go to a mechanic and they're like, hey, you have a 1 week wait, and then we can assess your car and then we can tell you what's going on. And then the first one, they already assessed it when you came in and say, oh, okay, we just need to fix your tire or wheel bearing. And then we do it in an hour and here's the price versus waiting 1 week, then getting a diagnostic, then they'll tell you. Obviously, if it's the same product, which is fixing your car, most people would be more inclined to go with the business that, of course, is faster. And so that's kind of the principle on this is that businesses want their analytics to be there. They don't want to wait for that. And I would say that this is a nice, for me, I do enjoy this because it is nice. Like I don't really enjoy being in like high pressure, high stakes things. Like nobody's dying because the analytics isn't working. A lot of businesses come to me and they have essentially like broken dashboards from a previous era. Maybe it's previous in-house analytics person or previous person on Upwork, or maybe they're a business owner, or like there's not that many people on their team. They're a small business and they built it themselves and it's not really working that well anymore. Or they have it working, but they want to build it out. They don't want to do it themselves. Um, and waste all that time. They just want someone else to take care of it, to give them the analytics that they need. And a lot of times, business owners don't necessarily even know what they need. And so that's actually another piece of the problem that this completely takes care of. And it's that I serve you everything. I serve you the best of what analytics has to offer essentially for your business, telling you all of the key insights that you need as an e-commerce Shopify business owner to successfully run your business and make key decisions on, of course, ad spend, products that you're selling, product mix, essentially some kind of complex ad structures. So it's solving those problems. And then it's also solving another problem, which is price. When I was building these custom reports, I would say that because it's billing by hour, the price is going to be more. And so if I build this one time and it's a standardized template, fully automated system with maybe 5% of it I have to do manually, then I can serve more customers because it's a lot faster. I can deliver a lot faster. Let's say the goal to deliver is 48 hours, and my previous goal to deliver a small dashboard, a version one small dashboard, was 1 month. And so going to 1 month to 2 days is a huge jump. And potentially I can serve more customers and give them a more competitive price as well. and that's better for the client, the customer. Now, granted, it is taking away some things, and so it's not all positives. Of course, the main thing it's taking away is that customizability, and there's multiple different fronts when it comes to that. So number one, of course, is data sources in general. So the version one of this is only going to have a small number of data sources. So if you have a even common data source, but I just am not serving it, then it's not going to be in the report. And maybe you don't want it, right? Maybe the business owners that I talk to aren't going to want that because it's a crucial piece of their business. And I'll get into which data sources I'm going to build out of the V1 first, and then more things later. Now, the other con of this is essentially customized metrics in the data sources themselves. So basically, businesses are different, and depending on what they sell, they might have certain unique metrics that have to do with their business. And I would say that a lot of businesses have these custom metrics, especially if they're bringing in data from like Excel or Google Sheets, then it's like a ton of custom stuff. And so that piece is not necessarily included in the flat fee for this product. Now, I would say down the road, I will offer some kind of custom packages as add-ons onto this. So for example, if there's like an Excel sheet or Google Sheet that you would add into this, or if there's some kind of add-on of custom metrics that you have in your business on a data source that I am already serving, then that potentially could be a build out and add-on. Um, and in the early phases, it might be an add-on, and then maybe I just put it into the entire product and serve it across the board with a version update, and something like that. And so that's kind of the main idea of this overall. That's essentially the philosophy and the overall gist of why I'm building this and what it's kind of providing. And so that's the main idea. And I kind of want to build it in public a little bit, um, just to do that. I unfortunately didn't build in public when I started my Upwork channel like years ago, and there's some other cool YouTubers that, did build in public for their Upwork thing. And it would have been great to have that kind of story out there in public because, I mean, a lot of people were asking me like, "Oh my gosh, how do I get started on Upwork? Like, aren't you just competing for the lowest price possible?" Which is absolutely not true, of course. And then I could just say, "Hey, I have like 100 videos of my entire story. You can check that out, or you can, you know what I mean?" But I never did that. And so I would say one side goal of this, which feeds into the marketing engine, of course, is building in public. So I'm going to just show you a little bit of what I've been working on, which is mainly just documentation. Right now, I haven't really built too much of anything. I've started building some small things here and there, but mostly I'm just working on kind of planning. I'm in plan mode. And so I'm going to run through that and then show you some other things, and that's that. So basically, here's my SOP index again, and it's just showing my standard operating procedures. So it's not really in any specific order, but I have the ones that I mostly completed up at the top. And again, it's just documentation. And so the main idea is that I'm going to build out a lot of this templatized, standardized processes, and then I build them once, and then that's set, and that's good to go. And then I can sell that product to businesses that need the product. And so here we go. We have a SQL transform layer, and basically that's going to explain all of the transformations that will be handled. It'll have the SQL for how we take the raw data and make it into data that can be used in the dashboards. Then we also have a credential intake kind of file, and basically it's explaining how the API keys and some other credentials are going to be handled. And it all just depends on the data source because there's different necessary things for different data sources, and they're going to change with time, of course. So I have to do upkeep with ongoing maintenance for every single data source that I add into this. And then there's a client process visibility. So, I mean, right now we already have a lot of visibility on everything that's going on in here, but I have a specific SOP for everything that the client can see and everything that the client cannot see. And quite frankly, there's processes that um, I want to keep private because it's the sauce to the business, and also it's just unnecessary for the business owner to even care about, to even see that additional level of information. It's actually not only not helpful, but it's actually a bit hurtful because it makes everything way more complicated. If I'm showing the business owner all this complicated code and stuff like that they don't care about, they don't want to see that. So I'm not going to show it to them. But it includes the processes, some automation, data sets, other documentation. Then we have the data source wish list, and this is definitely going to grow with time, but it's showing like the all the data sources that are in my head right now and the current status of them and essentially the strategy behind them, packaging tiers, so different packaging, different add-ons, stuff like that. So we have onboarding differences, we have add-ons, we have a handoff package that I haven't built yet, and then a support documentation package. What are the monthly fees? What's the one-time payment going to be? And then what are the custom built packages going to look like? We have data privacy and security SOP. So this is going to determine all the processes and legal documents that I need to get in order, that I'm going to have clients sign so that everything is good with that. And we need to update that. A little typo. Then we have the connector decision. Oh, you can preview. That's pretty cool. So we have like stuff like that. The connector decision though. So what is this? The parent SOP should define when to use. Ah, right. So it's basically defining which ingestion platform we use. So BigQuery actually has a data transfer service and it can pull some of these data sources automatically. Which is nice. And then there's potentially Power My Analytics or a new one I was looking into, which is DLT. Um, they have essentially like MCP server that you can build data source connections and data source destinations with, which is pretty nice. And then, of course, just general custom Python. If for whatever reason DLT just isn't really working for me, then I can, of course, just do custom Python scripts. And I've built that for a few years now. And so that's going to be no problem. And then there's some other stuff like infrastructure overview, which details the setup for all the infrastructure, the roadmap, which just has like the new connectors, the new report features, the broader custom build options and packages, the new AI insights and functionality. I have SOPs for every single data source that's going to be used in this dashboard. So you can't preview it for some reason, but we'll get to that. We have client provisioning SOP. We have client config SOP, data freshness SOP, pipeline incident SOP when something breaks, Looker Studio deployment SOP. I might use Looker Studio, but I might actually use a different platform that enables me to just use code so that I can just make it fully automated. We'll get there when we get there. I think the dashboard layer is going to be the final piece, and I'll kind of build the other things before I do that. But I was using Looker Studio as my primary dashboard platform for many years now, and it's great. I just think that the API for Looker Studio is not really for building automated dashboards. And so if we can get something that does have that, then I would do that. Maybe it's even like a JavaScript thing, but probably not going to do that in the V1, but maybe down the line. And then obviously there's going to be AI insights access. So maybe down the line in the roadmap, I'll have basically AI insights chatbot where you can message the chatbot and it will read your data and give you insights, maybe even build tables or small little charts based on what you ask. That is a cool idea. And then governance and data policy and some other things. And this is kind of like a folder view of some of the documents I'm going to have. So we have like the data source wish list, the SOPs, all of those. We have client provisioning, credential handling, the legal packet, the internal policies, pricing, stuff like that. And that's essentially what we have over here as well. So I'm going to show you a few more things as well that I built out that I started working on. And then I'll just make some more update videos over time. And again, this business, it's going to be 0 to X, a million, whatever, or 100,000, whatever it is. And I don't know what kind of marketing channels I'm going to be using right now, but maybe I'll do paid ads. Maybe I'll do just paid ads. We'll see. So here is the data source wish list. So it's pretty basic. It's just a table. I have the name of the data source. I have the category of the data source. I have like, is it supported? Now, right now, nothing is supported because I haven't built it out, but in the V1, Shopify is going to be supported. Amazon Seller Central, that one might be like a V1.2 or 1.5 or maybe a V2. But then I have the priority here as well. So I have a bunch of things on the list: WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Stripe. I have Google Ads, Meta Ads. I have a bunch of other ad platforms, Open AI ads. So ChatGPT has ads now. And so I definitely want to integrate that as soon as possible because that's going to be a huge platform. That's going to be the future of, that's going to be huge. And then I have some of the organic stuff like GA4, GSC, GMB is what I used to call it, but Google My Business, but now it's Google Business Profile. And then we have some other stuff. We have some CRM. Right now, just going to support HubSpot. And then QuickBooks. QuickBooks has some complexity, but I want to actually get that in there very quickly because it's quite common, and these ones are just less common. Maybe one email marketing, but maybe not. These ones are they're going to be custom, so like database stuff, and that would be essentially a custom build out. Maybe I would have some sort of custom build out with AI because it's going to be different every time. So maybe I can build a connection and ask for them to give me the kind of IP or whatever of their database, and then I have the AI agent read the schema of their database table that we actually want to use, so it can read all the column names and things like that, and then it will orchestrate essentially the very basic architecture of what we're bringing in, and then I can build a pipeline, maybe 20% manual at that point, and then add it into the flow, add it into the data set in a custom way, and do something like that. So that's the data source wish list, which is pretty cool. Um, the roadmap I haven't started yet, but if you have ideas, let me know and maybe I'll add it here. Obviously, I'm going to be updating this over time based on client feedback when I do sales calls and things like that. Now, then we have the client config file. It's a bit in the weeds. So we have like the client ID and the Google console platform, GCP. I can't. I have the I have video brain, so I can't think of what GCP stands for. But the project ID in your GCP instance, and the data sets, the sources that you have, your currency, time zone, refresh cadence, when things were updated, stuff like that. Connector decision. So these, I have the wish list and then I have the decision. So the decision is what I actually am going to support. The wish list is what I potentially would want to support in the future. The ones that are yellow, they're not going to be on the V1. So Amazon Seller Central, unfortunately, it's not going to be in the V1. But a lot of the other ones are OpenAI ads. That's not going to be in the V1. And then QuickBooks Online also no. But we have Shopify, we have Facebook Meta Ads, we have Facebook, Instagram Organic, we have HubSpot, we have the Google suite of things, analytics and ads and the other stuff. So I think that's pretty solid for like a V1, and we can get that going. Those are really crucial, really important data sources for e-commerce, Shopify, business owners. So I think that's pretty solid. And then we um, we have the data set SOP. And so we have kind of basically what the different data sources are going to be for that. So we have, or not the different data sources, but the different data sets. So we have the raw. So first we're going to bring in the raw data. Then we have staging, so it's just going to fix data types essentially. Then we have intermediate, so that's going to be clean tables based on the data source name itself. So Facebook, campaign performance, for example. Then we have the marts. Now, marts are going to be usable data sets. They're going to be the data sets that the business owner essentially is going to more or less see for the most part. Um, they're the good tables with the good data, with the fully combined or unionized data sources. So like Facebook ads and Google ads combined on top of each other. So the, you know, fact campaign performance, as it says right here. And then we have the dashboard data, that data layer. And basically it's the same thing as Mart. And the only difference is that it's going to be pre-filtered, pre-aggregated, or simplified means it minimizes the number of columns. And so the reason for that, of course, is to make things load fast. So I don't want to bring in any data that is unnecessary into these reports so that it loads as fast as possible. And so that it essentially can scale as much as possible without breaking on platforms that potentially have some data limitations so that we don't have to do any weird stuff that I've done in the past. Anyway, so this is kind of the idea, whatever, I'll update that. And then, like I said, we have data source specific SOPs. So for the Meta Facebook ads API SOP, we have like, here's what we're going to bring it, here's what we're going to bring in, and how we're going to get it, and the daily refresh, and the backfill and stuff like that. And then we have the package tiers, which I haven't really built out. This is just a placeholder, but for example, we'll have the standard package, which offers this stuff, and then the add-on package, which offers that stuff. And so that's kind of what I've been building out. Now I have more things that I built out over here as well. And we, of course, we have the SOP, the SOP index, which just is going to go over everything that I'm building out. This is going to expand, of course, as well. But one thing, I don't want to get too caught up in just building SOPs. Now, I'd say I built out all of this stuff in about 3 days, maybe. Of course, I was brainstorming with AI a lot, and so that helped out a lot with that, which was great. And I was also doing some deep research, which is the last thing I want to show you, which is pretty cool. And so I built out all these SOPs, and then I wanted to be like, okay, hey, like I really want to make this as best as possible. So I want to do some research. So I'm going to do some deep research with AI as to essentially best practices and learn some new things. And just what are the most important things for my ICP, for my customer, my perfect customer? What's their biggest pain points so that I can help fix those? And so I did some deep research, and let me show you a little bit of that really quick. So we have the deep research blueprint for e-commerce analytics, LinkedIn authority. So I had AI essentially analyze what's it called, like some top people that are doing something similar in my space. And so probably I'll make some LinkedIn posts in the future ongoing to kind of build some brand authority. But for now, I'm just doing research and building SOPs, and later on I'll do that. But we have the executive summary. We have some people that have checked out. Um, and then we have some pretty cool things that it brought to my attention. I'm just going to go over a little bit, not everything, but what your dashboard must teach. So this system makes conflicting e-commerce numbers usable by forcing clean definitions, stable source ownership, and decision-oriented views. And I think that this bold piece here is really important. It is crucial to essentially providing value to the business owner and giving me the ability to sell it confidently to the business owner, know that it is providing value. And so I think that as I'm building this, I need to keep this exact thing in mind, which is, I need forced clean definitions of every single platform that can combine in a perfect way, a clean way. I need stable ownership, and I need the views, the dashboard to be decision oriented so that it's like, here's the dashboard where you're making decisions on X. Here's the dashboard where you're making decisions on Y. And so one of them would be like, here's the dashboard to make decisions on your worst and best performing ads. Here's one on your worst and best performing products, just very basic. Then over time, as clients request new things in the dashboard, I can make a new version of the report, build in new reports that were commonly requested, or reports that are highly valuable, even if they're not commonly requested, and do that. And then the next and final thing that I want to just demonstrate really quick is something that I did struggle with for a long time, when I was building these analytics dashboards. And so right here is the point where it says the most commercially used insight for your product is that a good e-commerce dashboard should answer three questions in order: what happened, why it happened, and what to do next. Now, I would be completely honest in saying that most of the reports that I built, I was just doing distinct analytics, which what that means is it's just showing the numbers, ergo what happened. And I wouldn't necessarily really um, build out any systems or any report indicators as to explaining why it happened. Because every single business that I was working with, it was kind of like a lot of the times a new niche, a new industry, a new service, a new completely a new product. And so the why it happened was something that typically I would leave for the business owner to kind of figure out for themselves based on the data. And then, of course, the what to do next part is also a piece that was not typically included because, again, uh, expertise of the business owner had, and I had the expertise on the data. Now, in this next iteration, this automated analytics system, I do want to tackle all three of these to bring even more value than I did in the past. So it's faster, brings more value in general. Um, yeah, so that one I'm going to have to figure out what to do with that, but I think that's going to be highly valuable. And that's pretty much the overall gist of this. Um, and I don't know how many updates I'll be doing, but this is the first one, and we'll see what happens.